So thank you for having us here today. As I mentioned, or as Mark mentioned, I am the manager of CFA Program, and I'm joined by Michelle, who is the Senior Director of Exam Development. So it's really great to have her here because she is by far the expert on computer-based testing and all things exam development. So we'll both be available after this presentation to answer any questions you have. So please, feel free to shoot those in the chat or however the society prefers to handle those, but we're happy to answer anything that you may have. So jumping right in, the CFA program has been administered via paper and pencil since the first exam in 1963. So the transition to computer-based testing is really a historic milestone for CFA Institute and all of our candidates. Beginning in 2021, all levels of the CFA program will shift to computer-based testing. Level 1 will be offered 4 times a year, and levels 2 and 3 will each be offered 2 times a year. So there are a number of benefits that come with the shift to computer-based testing. The first being flexibility. So computer-based testing offers us greater operational flexibility to adjust to a changing landscape, which is particularly helpful in times like these where we are in the middle of a global pandemic. Computer-based testing is also more convenient and offers smaller testing rooms with fewer candidates, which allows for proper social distancing. The number of candidates per test center will vary by market, but in North America, we'll generally see a maximum of 26 seats at each test center. This shift also allows us to increase the number of times we offer exams each year. It has enabled us to provide multi-day testing windows so candidates can choose their preferred date and time. And it's allowed us to expand our footprint and test in more locations. And finally, a fully digital format aligns with the real-world professional working environment. So computer-based testing offers CFA Institute the opportunity to introduce new question types that employers or candidates may see as being more reflective of practice, or potentially we can potentially include something like the use of Excel for some of our questions. So this is just a great opportunity as we think through what the evolution of the CFA program looks like through practice analysis and the curriculum updates. We can think about how that flows into the exam as well. Now, this is just an opportunity, and none of these changes are going to affect anytime soon, and we will be sure to notify candidates and all societies well in advance if we do make changes like these, but this is just one of the opportunities that the shift to computer-based testing offers us. So with the shift to computer-based testing, there are some changes to the format and frequency of the exam. The first is with scheduling. So for scheduling, candidates will be able to choose a date and time within a specified exam window that works best for them, as opposed to the one day and time for all candidates that's currently available with paper-based testing. After scheduling their initial appointments, candidates will have the opportunity to change their appointment if needed, but there is an associated rescheduling fee. This fee was originally $250, but we recognize the uncertainty that we're facing right now with the global pandemic. So we did announce a few weeks ago that we have reduced that fee to $25 for all of 2021. Exam appointments are available on a first come, first served basis. I'll talk a little bit more in a few slides about the registration and scheduling process so candidates can get a better understanding of that. But it is important to keep in mind that if you're looking for a particular date or time in the testing window, to go ahead and register and then schedule your exam as soon as possible. Computer-based testing allows us to offer exams in over 400 locations globally. So this includes all test areas where the CFA program is usually administered for the June exam. In your area, the exam is usually offered in Minneapolis for June, where we will continue to test. With the shift to computer-based testing, we'll also be adding test centers in Duluth and Rochester. For the full list of all of our test center locations, you can check our website for that. But it is great that we're able to expand in some states where we only had one. We'll be able to expand, for instance, here 3 in some cities where we might have only had 1, but we really faced capacity issues, or we had centers where we had hundreds or thousands of individuals in one venue for paper-based testing. We're now spreading that out. We have many more venues spread throughout the cities so people can pick and choose what works best for them. The exam length has changed. So paper-based exams consist of 2 3-hour sessions, for a total of 6 hours, while computer-based exams will be 2.25-hour sessions for a total of 4.5 hours. The exam question format has not changed, so there will be fewer questions because the time is shorter, but level 1 exams are still multiple choice, level 2 are still item set, and level 3 is still a mixture of item set and essay. So we know that some candidates and charter holders may worry that a shorter exam and fewer questions means an easier exam, but we want to assure you that that's not true. Before we plan the shift to a shorter exam, CFA Institute invested in independent psychometric research of all of our examinations. And this research found that the incremental information produced by 1.5 hours of additional testing was negligible. So in other words, we already have sufficient information after 4.5 hours of testing to reliably determine whether a candidate should pass or not. So by shortening the exam, we're not losing any important information that would help to determine, the minimum passing score or which candidates are above or below that. CFA Institute is committed to maintaining the rigor of the exam, so the passing score calculations and standards will remain unchanged. So candidates who complete the exam in a paper-based environment, it will be the exact same standard as with computer-based testing for next year and beyond. And then, of course, we have frozen the curriculum for 2021. So all exams in 2021 will be based on the 2020 curriculum. If you started studying for June 2020 or December 2020 and moved to an exam next year, you will still be using the same curriculum, so you won't have lost any of that study time. So the exam day experience with computer-based testing will be different than with our traditional paper-based exams where we have hundreds and thousands of candidates in large testing rooms, but we'll still have many of the same rules and procedures in place. Candidates will arrive to their chosen test center and have to check in with proctors just as they typically would. Each test center will be monitored for cheating of any form, including cybersecurity. Candidates will not be able to bring in any outside paper and pencil, but they will be provided with writing materials at the test center. The type of writing material will vary by test center. Most were using whiteboards and dry erase markers, but with the pandemic, some have transitioned back to traditional paper and pencil in order to avoid using reusable materials. So it depends on your test center as to what the materials will be, but you will have writing materials so that you can make notes to yourself or work out formulas as needed. And of course, you will still be allowed to bring an approved calculator to work through any of those calculations. Each exam appointment will look similar. So after the candidate gets checked in, the timed portion of the appointment will begin. There will be time allotted at the front end for the candidate pledge, a tutorial on how to use the software, and then a short survey. The time portion of the exam will begin with session 1. There will be an optional break at the end of session 1, and then session 2 will begin. Candidates are allowed to take unscheduled bathroom breaks if they need to step out, but testing time will be used. The clock will continue to run just as it does with paper-based exams when you need to get up and take short break. So pricing is dependent on when a candidate registers. This is the same pricing model that we had for paper-based exams as well. The early registration fee for 2021 is $700, and the standard registration fee is $1,000. And there is still a one-time enrollment fee of $450 for all new level 1 candidates. In 2021, the level 1 exam will be offered in February, May, August, and November. All 3 levels will be offered in May, level 2 again in August, and level 3 for the second time in November. An important note here is that candidates cannot sit in adjacent windows. So you cannot test in February for level 1 and then again in May for level 1 or level 2. There must be a minimum of 6 months between exam sittings. So if you're sitting for level 1 in February, you won't be eligible to test again until August. And the full registration schedule with deadlines and the exam windows is available on our website. So I would encourage you to check that out. The 2022 exam schedule will be slightly different than 2021. There are no changes to the level 1 or level 3 exam offerings, but level 2 will be tested in February and August instead of May and August. The 2021 schedule is slightly different because we accelerated the implementation of computer-based testing for levels 2 and 3, but this 2022 schedule will remain in place for the foreseeable future. So different from traditional paper-based experience, with the computer-based testing format, the registration and scheduling process is a two-step process. So I want to walk through some of those details here. First, to register, you simply log into your account with CFA Institute and complete the registration process, very similar to the paper-based exam process. So this includes selecting the appropriate exam cycle, providing the requested information, and then completing the payment process. After you've completed registration, you will have the opportunity to select the exam appointment that works best with your schedule at a computer-based venue of your choice. So to do so, you'd log into your account and select the CFA program tile. And from there, you will see the option to schedule your exam. In the lower right-hand corner of the slide, you can see a screenshot of what the CFA program tile looks like after registration has been completed, but before an exam appointment has been scheduled. So you can see that it confirms that I'm registered, and then to schedule your appointment, you simply click schedule your exam underneath, and that will take you to Prometrics Pro Scheduler tool. If you need to change your appointment after it's been scheduled, you can manage this process from the CFA program tile as well. There are rescheduling and scheduling deadlines, so it's important to be aware of those dates to make sure you make your selection in time. Mm-hmm. And again, all of that is posted on our website. We know there are some capacity concerns for candidates in some areas with computer-based exams, particularly for February. We are working with our computer-based testing vendors, Prometric and British Council, to continually add appointments in locations around the globe based on demand. We'll continue to do this over the coming weeks and months. If you do not currently see an available appointment in your city of choice, we suggest you check back in the coming days because it can take up to 10 business days for new appointments to populate in the system after they've been added. And just to reiterate, appointments are available on a first come, first served basis. So if you've already registered for an exam in 2021 but have not yet scheduled, I would encourage you to do so as soon as possible. So we have a really helpful candidate resources page that contains information related to study tools, preparing for the exam, and then the exam day itself. This page is available to all currently registered candidates and can be accessed from the CFA program tile. The first item I want to point out here is the learning ecosystem. So you can see the link to the learning ecosystem, or the LES as we call it, in the top left corner under study. The LES houses all of the CFA program curriculum, as well as end of reading questions and mock exams. So please take advantage of these study tools that are provided to you by CFA Institute, and go in there. You can, I think you can comment and communicate with other candidates. You can view the curriculum through an adaptive model or straight through. So there's a lot of ways to go about studying. Of course, there are prep providers as well that offer valuable services, but CFA Institute does provide the full curriculum, which the exam questions are based off of through the learning ecosystem. The other item I want to highlight on the candidate resources page is the exam software tutorial. So you can see the link to this tutorial under the prepare column all the way at the bottom in this screenshot. This tutorial will help you to familiarize yourself with the software features for computer-based testing, so you can feel a bit more comfortable when you go in to take the exam. Now, it's not a mock exam, so the questions in this tutorial are not specific to CFA program, but it will show you how to move from one question to the other, how questions will be displayed, and other features like that. This is available again on the candidate resources to registered candidates, but if you're not registered and you're curious about this, the exam software tutorial can also be found on Prometrics website. There's another great video on Prometrics website about exam day and what to expect on exam day with the check-in process and how things will be presented, what the testing room might look like. So you can find that on their website if you just visit prometric.com and search for what to expect on exam day. So those are some helpful resources, and talked a little bit about the transition to computer-based testing, but I'm sure there are many more questions that you all have. So again, thank you for listening to this, and Michelle and I are both available for questions.
So thank you very much, Kristina. We have one question in the chat right now. Somebody is asking if they can move the February exam to May. I don't know if you need more information than that, or if that's an easy question.
Nope. So you can reschedule your appointment within your exam window. So if you've registered for February, you can move anywhere within those available dates. If you're looking to shift your actual exam window, so from February to May, you will be required to repay those registration fees. That's not something that, rescheduling your appointment, that's not allowed. That has to stay within the window. So if you want to change windows, you will forfeit the fees that you already paid for February if you want to re-register for May.
Okay. And so folks, use the chat window if you've got additional questions. I have one. I just did a Google search to see how many Prometric test centers there are in the state of Michigan, and there are 5. The fact that there are 5 doesn't necessarily mean you will be using all 5 of them. Is that correct?
That is correct. There are different levels of test centers for Prometric. I can't speak too much to this because it's a little bit outside of my area of expertise, but it has to do with the level of security and the services that they offer. And so CFA Institute only uses kind of their upper tier test centers. And that's why, if you do a general search, you might find many more available test centers than what we're actually using, because we are only using those higher level centers.
Got it. I'll turn my camera back on. We've got another question. Does computer-based testing have any impact on the time it takes to get test results?
So computer-based testing does allow us to, of course, get the materials, the answers to the questions back more quickly. We don't have to wait for the physical shipments of all of the Scantrons and have to run them through the machine to read everything. But there is still significant analysis that happens on the back end in order to set that minimum passing score, ensure there are no flawed questions and things like that. So while we expect the results release timeline to be shorter, it will still take time. So results won't be available instantaneously.
Okay, here comes another question. Calculators. You mentioned that the HP12C is approved. On the back of all HP12C, there are some equations embedded in a plaque. Is that allowed, or do they have to scratch that off with a magic marker or something?
Michelle might be able to speak to this. I don't think they have to remove the plaque if it's physically attached to the calculator, but I don't know if Michelle can speak to that.
I sure can, and I got mine right here. So yes, that plaque, you're allowed to bring that in. It's an approved calculator. That's part of the calculator. You're allowed to bring that with you.
Okay, good. All right.
A related question. So back when it was a physical site and paper, pencil, all that, some people would bring in multiple calculators. They'd bring in extra batteries, screwdrivers, etc. I'm just asking this to make sure it's being communicated to proctors that a calculator isn't the only item that could be brought in, but that things that are potentially aids to the calculator are also being described to the proctors with the condensed items that can be brought to the exam.
Yes, we have a whole operations manual that's shared with all Prometric proctors around the world so that everyone receives the same direction. So items like that would be included in it. So the candidates will be prohibited from bringing in any personal items, cell phones, writing materials, anything like that, but something that is allowed much as it is now. So the calculators and related items. I know sometimes candidates have screwdrivers in case their calculator requires that to change the batteries. So that information is all being communicated to all of our Prometric proctors worldwide.
And this is, I guess it's a question. I know that CFA Institute has been using computer-based testing for the CIPM program for what, at least a year or more. So a lot of those issues that you've been able to work out a lot of those sorts of issues already. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the CIPM program has actually been computer-based since its inception. So that's been many years we used to use a different vendor, but when CFA programs switched to computer-based testing, or we announced the switch to computer-based testing in 2021, we actually shifted CIPM program to the same vendor, Prometric. So we've actually been through cycles with Prometric with their computer-based testing. So we do have a feel for this. CIPM program was administered in September, the exam with Prometric. It was very successful. It had a much better rate of candidates being able to sit than we're experiencing right now for the upcoming December exam for CFA program. So in addition to feeling comfortable with the processes and procedures, we feel more comfortable that these computer-based testing exams will be able to go forward even in the pandemic, given the reduced capacity, social distancing that it allows for and things like that, which we did see successfully with the CIPM program last month.
Okay, those are all the questions in chat, but I can't believe those are all of the questions that folks have. So time to stop being shy, people. What else is on your mind?
I have another one, Mark.
Oh, good.
In terms of the lunch break, so the old system, everyone would stop, they'd collect all the booklets, so you'd be sitting there for like 30 minutes. Can you describe how the start, the stop, and the break and returning to the room is supposed to go? Because obviously there was like lining up, coming back from lunch, etc. Just some of those nuances, what people should be prepared for.
I will see if Michelle has anything to offer there. I myself don't have too many of those details. Unfortunately, we can certainly get that and follow back up with the society to make sure you're prepared and can share that information with candidates. But Michelle, do you happen to know any of those details?
No, I don't. I know that it's an optional lunch break, so that to me it says there's people. The second session can be starting at different times. I don't know the details on how that works. So yeah, we'd be happy to follow up with you on that.
So would you be able to leave upon completion? Because that was kind of the other thing that would happen with the paper exam. If you were near the end, you had to just sit there and wait. But now you finish the exam. If you feel comfortable, you're able to exit.
I do believe that is the case. Part of the reason that the early dismissal rule went into effect for paper-based exams was because it was very disruptive to candidates that were still continuing to test, especially when you have thousands of candidates in a room and half of them are getting up within the last hour or so. It's very disruptive, and so that policy was put into effect. That was one of the reasons. With computer-based testing, much smaller venues. I'm not sure if anyone has seen what the Prometric centers look like, but you're kind of spaced out almost in your own little cubicle. Not quite, but you have walls up in between you and the next person, and you're not quite as close. So it's not as disruptive of an environment. So I do believe that you can leave early if you do not require the full amount of time.
Okay, another call for questions.
There's another one in the chat.
Oh, here we go. Standard registration for August 2021 closes on May 4th. For people taking the level 1 exam in February, will we receive results before this sign-up window closes?
Yes, results for February will be released prior to the standard registration deadline for the August window.
Okay. Okay, gang, you're letting them off easy. These are softball questions. Here's another one. How to order study materials.
So the study materials are available on the learning ecosystem as part of registration. So you don't have to pay any extra or do anything extra, just aside from clicking that link to get in to see all of the curriculum. If you're interested in actually having physical paper books in front of you, you can order the curriculum, and that link is available on the candidate resources page. So after you've registered, you can go to the CFA program tile, and find the link to order the print curriculum.
Is there an additional fee for the print?
There is an additional fee for the print. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. I want to say $150 maybe, but there is an additional fee for that if you want it in print form.
Okay, here's one. How will grading work with the additional level 2 and 3?
Okay, I can take that one. So by grading, I assume you mean maybe the essay grading, because every exam gets graded. So level 1, level 2 is all item set multiple choice. So that's machine graded, the same as level 1. And then level 3 in CBT is still planned to be half item set, so machine graded there, and then half essay still. So the half that's essay will be human graded, as it's been done since 1963. We'll bring in charter holders to evaluate the responses. Probably will not bring them in person as we've done in the past, but switch to a virtual model is the way we'll move forward. But the writing teams that I work with develop a scoring rubric, what we think are the correct answers. But as we learned over the years, candidates sometimes have a different approach that may be valid too. So that's where bringing charter holders in to apply these scoring rubrics allow us to evaluate these different responses and decide if something else deserves credit. So similar timeframes, we'll be able to get, I think we need a little more time to deliver the level 3 results because of the human grading aspect of it. But that we'll still try to keep that moving as quick as possible to get that out. So if for some unfortunate reason someone has to take it again, that you'll be well within the time frame to be able to sign up for the next window.
Okay, I think we've let that painful silence drag on long enough. Last call for questions, because I think if not, we'll go ahead and move to the next piece of this, which is to see about organizing some study groups. And as I said that, we got another question that just came in. Follow up to the previous question about registration.
Oh, my director is ridiculous.
So are you allowed to register for level 2 before receiving results from level 1? And what is the procedure if you end up not passing level 1? Asking because the early window with the reduced fee closes early.
So you do have to wait to receive your results before you can register for a subsequent exam. And that's simply because, you don't know what level you need to register for. Of course, we're very optimistic that you're passing, but if not, you need to know which exam to be able to register for. So you do have to wait for results to come out. If you're moving on from level 1, or if you fail level 1 and need to re-register, it's the same process. You just go through the registration process and then the scheduling process to choose your exam appointment. As far as pricing, so, if you're sitting in February for level 1 and you don't pass, you will be able to register for August, but that will be at the standard registration fee. So you really have to determine whether price or timing is more of a driving factor for you. So if it's price, then you can kind of push out to November and still get that early fee of $700. If timing is more important for you, then you can register in August for $1,000. So with more options, there is some flexibility there, but you kind of have to determine whether price or timing is more important for you.
Okay. Another question. Are all the questions structured as multiple choice, or are there some K-type or case study type questions?
Okay, well, at level 1, we have everything structured as multiple choice, where it's a couple lines and a related question just to that couple lines. When we get to the item set format that we introduce at level 2 and at level 3, that's all case study type, where there will be a vignette, a case, or a story. And then the way we're set up right now is either 4 multiple choice questions related to that or 6 multiple choice. Historically, we always had 6. Last year was the first year we started introducing 4 items there. The K-type questions, for those who know, testing theories are the kind of questions where there might be multiple ways to get at the answer. So A could be A is right, B is right, C could be A and B, where you can do some of all of the above, none of the above. As question writers, our team, we really try to avoid all K-type questions. We don't want to make it confusing or difficult for a candidate to be able to understand the question. We're very focused on being able to assess the knowledge, not how well did you read the question and how these all stack up. So we really try to avoid those K-type questions. Occasionally, you'll see in certain areas, there might be what we call like an only both, where it's this answer only, that answer only, or both. But that's as close as we come to a K-type question.
In thinking about the interface, is there any way to highlight, underline, or make notations related to the question? And this is more of a level 2 curiosity with the vignettes, because I definitely did a lot of underlining, but I'm just curious.
I think, and I think there is the ability to underline and do work in there and highlight as you're working through the case. We're still, as I think Kristina explained at the beginning, we're accelerating level 2 and 3 more quickly to computer-based testing than we expected. So with level 2 showing up in May, there are still details that we're working through on the case side of it. So that just asking that question is good to know that we'll make sure we put that in our communications that come out hopefully soon on how this will look. We'll have tutorials specific for level 2 and 3, but I know there are ways to flag questions so that you can flag them as complete or flag something to come back to. That nothing that affects or impacts your score, but it's ways for you to track as you're working through the different parts. You'll have some way with notes yourself to make, as Kristina said, as you're working through. But I'm pretty sure there are ways to highlight and emphasize things that help you as you're going through trying to answer the questions related to the case.
And I'm not sure if this will be the last question or not, but if people have additional questions after today, what's the best way to get them answered? Obviously, none of us want them to ask me, because I will tell them simply choose answer C and move on. And none of us at the local level at the society have experience with any of this stuff. So if they have questions going forward, Michelle and Kristina, what's the best bet? Use the candidate resource page and work from there, or is there a better approach?
So the first thing I would suggest is checking candidate resources in our website. We have a lot of information out there on our website that's really helpful. I know sometimes it can be hard to weed through it all because there is so much information out there, but specifically under the CFA program section of the website, there's a lot of helpful information about the transition to computer-based testing, what that looks like, and a lot of the in-betweens. So that would be a great place to start if you have questions. If you are on the website and on candidate resources and can't find the answers to your questions, if you go to the society can always send them to Leah and she can send them to us, and we are happy to answer. Additionally, the candidates can always reach out directly to our Global Contact Center, and they are happy to answer. So they are a wealth of information. They're available via email or phone, and they're always happy to help. I will say right now we're experiencing a little bit of a backlog with our Global Contact Center, understandably so, with everything going on. So if you do reach out via email, please be patient. We will get to you, but it just might take a little while to get a response.
Okay.
I can make a pitch for the Global Contact Center. They do a great job too of being able to answer a lot of questions right up front, when timely when they can. But when they can't, they will reach out directly to me, my team. If somebody really wants to know a content question, anything, they'll funnel it to the right group so that you can get the proper answer. Anything we can give that will help all candidates is information we're very eager to share. So even some of these specific questions that I've answered, we can share that information. So ask away.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, last call, one last question, or are we going to let Travis see about organizing folks into study groups? Going once, going twice. And okay, Travis, I think it's coming over to you. Michelle and Kristina, do you want to hang around or do you need to take off?
Whatever you need.
Seeing as how we haven't been through this before, let's, if you can stick around for just a couple more minutes,
Sure.
and maybe something else will come up. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
So Travis, you are unmuted, and it falls to you to figure out how in the heck we're going to do this in the virtual environment this time.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And just as some background, the CFA Society provides resources. We're not going to force you into study groups. This is really just a forum for you to meet other candidates, establish relationships. It used to be done in person, which made it great for you to see people face to face and become comfortable, exchange numbers, etc. But instead, we're living in a new world for a little bit here. So I just want to level set so that you're not expecting to be told next Tuesday at 5:30, you're going to be meeting with these people. No, this is really a meet-up point. Identify other candidates that are set up for the same exam because you're likely on the same study cycle per se. Obviously, with some of the questions, some people may be considering moving their exams from February to May, or maybe haven't even registered for the exam or just trying to get information related to next year's process. So just be aware of that as you reach out to one another. There will be a follow-up email after this that includes everyone's contact information. If you do not want your contact information included in that, please let us know. We try to maintain everyone's privacy as best we can. With that being said, I typically go over some general elements of the exam, but I don't want to repeat too many of the things that were already discussed. Big thing here is level 1 is going to be a kind of a fast and a furious exam. You're talking about very short time window of 1.5 minutes per question. So you're going to be moving through those. So review is going to be critical as you approach your exam date. You want to take all the information that you may be reading right now and bring it back to the fore of your brain. So have a plan and bake in some review time. And that can also be one of the key benefits of your study group. Your study group can be designed, because we're not controlling it, to do whatever you want. If you want to get together virtually or in person, if you're comfortable, and just go through problems, you can do that. You can get together and you can read. You can do really whatever you wish to do in your study groups. It is your freedom. We are here as a resource. We are here as a springboard. If you are looking for ideas as to how to structure your study group, I'm happy to do that. I participated in a study group for level 3. We primarily worked on problem solving, particularly open-ended ones. So the essay questions. Tried to identify the easiest path to completing the question was our goal. And that was most beneficial for myself. But you need to know what worked for you likely in your college days will likely work for you going forward. So try to adapt any of those things that you, now if you've been out of school for a while, it may take a while to remember, but trust me, it'll be like getting back on a bicycle. You'll do fine. You just got to kind of figure it out. But planning is critical. Make sure you study as best you learn. So if you're a read and note taker, be a read and note taker. If you're a QBank person, be a QBank person. I typically advise not doing a tremendous amount of QBanks. I think there's more value in understanding the fundamental reasons why something is XYZ, because then you can apply it in different frameworks. But some people really like going to a QBank and doing 1,500 questions, and that's how they feel most comfortable. As I said, in terms of how you prep and how you study, make sure it's designed for your framework as how you do best. Don't force yourself to study on a Saturday morning if you're not a Saturday morning person. Study when it works for best for you. Make sure you're cognitively there, you're aware, you're ingesting all the information the best you can. If you feel like you're forcing yourself, you're probably not using a good use of your time. You're busy, you have jobs, you have school. If you're in, say, an MBA program, make sure you're allocating your time wisely. Also, in terms of I use the example, if you're not a Saturday morning person, think about when you're taking the exam too. If you are taking the exam on a Saturday morning, if that's when you're scheduled for, you're going to have to learn to become a Saturday morning person. So don't necessarily study that, but start prepping your body, because all the prep in the world can be ruined by going into exam day not feeling quite on. Also related to exam day, if you're not a coffee person, don't ingest a bunch of coffee. Don't go through and make yourself a big breakfast if you're not a breakfast person, but do plan for the fact that you're going to be sitting in a room going through an exam for 2.5 hours. You don't want to be hungry. You want to be as comfortable as possible. This is where the tutorial, I think, is going to be a critical tool. I obviously haven't looked at it yet, but you don't want to be surprised. So try to use those candidate resources that they highlighted earlier and get yourself acquainted with the system. You don't want to come in and learn a system and take an exam at the same time. You just want to be tested on your knowledge base. So try to isolate those components. But also related to just feeling comfortable, don't overdo the lunch break. Personally, I do not advise taking the lunch break and using it to study. I feel that most people have a limited cognitive budget for a day, and you're going to burn through it. And you know what people also do on that lunch break is they look at problems they've already been asked. It's unlikely that you're going to be asked the exact same question again. Now, there could be tangential things that are related, but generally speaking, people spend that time just getting worked up on some of the questions that they got wrong. Rarely is this affirmation that they're getting out of it. So take some time, take a breather, just stay relaxed, because this is a marathon and you need to be as comfortable as possible on exam day. Any questions up to this point?
And I'm going to unmute everybody, I think. Actually, I don't know that I can. So if you do want to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and fire away. See what you got. Oh, we have shy people today, man. Actually, I think that just means that Michelle, Kristina, and Travis answered everything. These guys are 100% prepared for February, and I am expecting a 100% pass rate. So, okay, I see somebody just said they're registered for the February exam, level 1, and they're in for a study group for whoever else is interested. So,
yep. So my contact information gets sent out for whoever. So
awesome. Thank you, Turner.
yep.
Okay. Yeah, and as Travis said, we'll do a follow-up to this meeting, and that'll be when when most of that connecting takes place. So, okay. Well, it looks like we can let everybody have like 10 minutes back in their day. So with that, we'll say thank you once again to Michelle and to Kristina and Travis, and good luck to all of you candidates. And please, if there's something where you think we can help, please reach out. Don't even though we're all tired of Zoom meeting fatigue, it doesn't mean that you're in this alone. So we're there for you, and look forward to good things in February. So, okay, gang, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at a future Zoom window at some point. So take care.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.